In the complex architecture of human relationships, language serves as both the foundation and the potential wrecking ball. While we often celebrate the grand gestures of love, the bouquets of roses, the surprise getaways, the whispered promises, it is often the subtle, everyday patterns of speech that determine the longevity and health of a partnership. For many women, there exists a specific category of language that transcends mere disagreement. These are the boundary-breaking phrases that act as psychological triggers. When a woman hears these words, it isn't just about the immediate sting of the comment. It is about the sudden, chilling realization that the person she is building a life with might not see her as a peer, but as an obstacle to be managed or a variable to be controlled. The weight of a single sentence can alter the trajectory of a lifetime. We often speak of the beauty of romance and the thrill of new beginnings, but there is a silent, shared lexicon of phrases that women across cultures and generations instinctively recognize as the heralds of emotional instability or heartbreak. These words are not merely combinations of letters. They are diagnostic tools that reveal the inner architecture of a man's psyche, his level of empathy, and his readiness for a genuine partnership. When a woman hears these specific configurations of language, it triggers a primal alarm system, not because of a lack of resilience, but because these words often signal a fundamental breach of the emotional contract that sustains a relationship. One of the most insidious phrases a man can utter is the classic deflection. "I'm sorry you feel that way." This sentence is a masterpiece of passive-aggressive linguistic engineering. At a superficial level, it carries the cadence of an apology, using the word sorry as a shield. But in the deep waters of emotional intelligence, it is a complete refusal to acknowledge fault. When a man says this, he is effectively placing the problem entirely within the woman's emotional response, rather than in the action that triggered it. It creates a dynamic where the man remains the objective, rational observer, while the woman is cast as the subjective, over-emotional participant. This is a foundational element of emotional gaslighting. Over time, hearing this phrase causes a woman to second-guess her own intuition. She begins to wonder if her hurt is indeed a choice she is making rather than a natural reaction to being mistreated. This erosion of self-trust is one of the most significant fears women face, because once you lose trust in your own feelings, you lose your ability to navigate the world safely. This phrase acts as a pivot point. If a woman brings up a legitimate concern, perhaps he was disrespectful to her in front of friends, or perhaps he neglected a significant boundary, and his response is to apologize for her feeling rather than his action, the conversation effectively ends. There is no room for growth or behavioral change because the man has decided that his behavior was acceptable and her reaction was the only variable in need of adjustment. This leads to a state of emotional isolation for the woman. She realizes that she is essentially shouting into a void. The fear here is the fear of being alone within a relationship, which is often far more painful than being alone while single. It signals a future where every conflict will be turned back on her, creating a cycle of frustration that eventually leads to total emotional burnout. Equally devastating is the phrase, "I'm just not looking for anything serious right now," particularly when it is deployed as a get-out-of-jail-free card after months of deepening intimacy. This phrase represents the fear of the emotional bait and switch. For many women, the investment of time and vulnerability is a sacred currency. To spend that currency on a man who allows the relationship to grow, accepts the emotional labor of his partner, and shares his own secrets, only to retreat behind a pre-recorded message of non-commitment, feels like a profound theft. It reveals a man who wants the convenience of a partner without the responsibility of a partnership. This phrase signals a fundamental lack of transparency. It suggests that he was happy to occupy the space of a boyfriend until the moment the role required him to show up during a crisis or plan for a future. The fear here is rooted in the relationship that the relationship was never a two-way street, but a temporary lease on someone else's affection. When this is heard, it often triggers a desperate attempt at auditioning. The woman may think that if she is just a little more patient, a little more supportive, or a little more perfect, he will change his mind. But the phrase itself is a boundary. It is a way for a man to maintain his autonomy while consuming the emotional resources of another person. It creates a power imbalance where the woman is constantly waiting for a promotion that is never coming. This fear is tied to the biological and social pressures many women feel regarding time, whether it's the desire to start a family or simply the desire to not waste years on a dead-end connection. Hearing these words feels like watching hours of your life evaporate. It is the fear of being used as a placeholder while he waits for something he deems better, or while he simply avoids the growing pains of adult commitment. As a relationship progresses, the fear of comparison often manifests through the phrase, "My ex never used to do that." This is a direct assault on a woman's sense of individuality. It introduces a ghost into the room, a curated, often hallucinated version of a past partner who is used as a yardstick to measure the current partner's performance. This creates a toxic atmosphere of competition, where the woman feels she is being audited rather than loved. It suggests that the man is looking for a specific service or behavior rather than a connection with a unique human being. When a man compares his current partner to an ex, he is signaling that he hasn't done the emotional work to move on. He is still trapped in a cycle of projection. For a woman, this creates a constant state of hypervigilance, where she feels she must perform to avoid falling short of a standard she never agreed to meet. Furthermore, this comparison is often a tool for manipulation. By highlighting a positive trait of a former lover, the man is subtly instructing the woman on how she should change to please him. It is a way of eroding her boundaries without having an honest conversation about needs. A woman fears this because it strips away the security of being the one. In a healthy relationship, there is a sense of being chosen for who you are, flaws and all. The X comment suggests that you are actually in a competition with a memory, and memories are notoriously difficult to beat because they don't have the messy, complicated realities of a living, breathing person. It makes the woman feel like a replacement part in a pre-existing machine, rather than a co-creator of a new life. In moments of conflict, the phrase, "you're being crazy" or "you're overreacting" acts as a nuclear option for communication. These words are designed to shut down dialogue by delegitimizing the speaker. Historically, the label of hysteria or craziness has been used to silence women's voices, and in the context of a modern relationship, it remains a potent tool for suppression. When a man calls a woman crazy, he is effectively saying that her perspective is so fundamentally broken that it doesn't deserve a response. It is the ultimate form of dismissiveness. It prevents the resolution of the actual issue, whether it's a lack of help around the house, a breach of trust, or a difference in values, and shifts the conversation to the woman's stability. This leads to a cycle of reactive abuse, where the woman becomes increasingly frustrated by being ignored. Her frustration is then labeled as proof of her craziness, and the original problem is never addressed. This dismissal strikes at the core of emotional safety. When a woman brings up a concern, she is making an attempt at connection. She is saying, "This matters to me, please see me." To be called crazy in that moment is a rejection of her reality. It forces her to spend her energy defending her sanity rather than solving the problem. The fear of these words is the fear of losing one's voice. It is the fear of being trapped in a reality where your feelings are treated as symptoms of a mental defect rather than valid responses to external stimuli. It creates a dynamic of the boy who cried wolf, where the woman eventually stops speaking altogether because she knows her words will be used against her. Another phrase that strikes fear into the heart of a long-term partner is, "You're acting just like your mother." This is a targeted strike at a woman's personal history and her efforts toward self-growth. Most people have aspects of their upbringing or parental traits they are actively working to evolve beyond. To have a partner, the one person who is supposed to be your greatest ally, weaponize those private insecurities during an argument is a profound betrayal. It suggests that the man has been collecting her vulnerabilities not to protect her, but to use them as ammunition when he feels cornered. This creates a chilling effect on vulnerability. A woman who hears this will eventually stop sharing her deep-seated fears, knowing they might be thrown back in her face at the next disagreement. This phrase is particularly painful because it implies a sense of inevitability. It suggests that no matter how hard she works on herself, she is destined to repeat the mistakes of the past. It is an attempt to shame her into silence. When a man uses this phrase, he is stepping outside the boundaries of a fair fight. He is no longer arguing about the dishes or the schedule. He is attacking her lineage and her sense of self. The fear here is the fear of being truly known and then having that knowledge used as a dagger. It destroys the sanctuary aspect of the relationship, making the woman feel like she is living with a spy rather than a soulmate. The phrase, "you're lucky to have me," is another one that sends shivers down the spine of an empowered woman. While it might sound like a joke or a moment of high self-esteem, when used in the context of a disagreement or a moment of vulnerability, it is an assertion of dominance. It carries the subtext that the woman is less than, and that the man is doing her a favor by being in her life. This creates an environment of gratitude debt, where the woman feels she can never ask for more or complain about less because she should just be thankful he is there at all. This is a classic tactic used by narcissists to keep their partners small and compliant. The fear of this phrase is the fear of being trapped in a hierarchy. A healthy relationship is a partnership of equals, but "you're lucky to have me" establishes a master-servant dynamic. It suggests that the man believes he is the prize and the woman is the lucky winner. This leads to a slow erosion of her self-worth. She may begin to believe that she really is lucky, and that if she leaves, no one else will want her. This is how emotional dependency is manufactured. The fear isn't just about the words. It's about the psychological cage those words build around her. Then there is the chilling silence of the phrase, "Whatever, do what you want." While it sounds like a concession of freedom, it is often a declaration of emotional withdrawal. It is the language of apathy. And in a relationship, apathy is often more dangerous than anger. Anger shows that a person still cares enough to fight. Apathy shows that they have checked out. When a man says, "do what you want," with a tone of cold indifference, he is withdrawing the support and collaboration that a relationship requires. He is saying that he no longer cares enough to have an opinion on your choices or your shared life. This signals the beginning of the end, as the woman realizes she is now navigating the relationship alone. This phrase is a form of stonewalling, one of the 4 horsemen of the relationship apocalypse identified by Dr. John Gottman. By refusing to engage, the man is creating a wall that the woman cannot climb over. It is a way of punishing her by denying her the connection she is seeking. The fear of this phrase is the fear of abandonment. It's the realization that while his body is in the room, his spirit has already left. It leaves the woman in a state of limbo, where she is technically in a relationship, but feels completely unsupported and unseen. We must also consider the subtle but powerful impact of "I don't remember saying that." While it's possible to genuinely forget things, when this becomes a pattern during every conflict, it is a form of gaslighting known as forgetting or denial. It forces the woman to become a historian of her own life, keeping notes or recordings just to prove that she isn't losing her mind. The fear here is the fear of a shifting reality. If the man can simply deny the past, then there is no basis for a shared future. It makes it impossible to hold him accountable for his words or actions. This phrase is particularly effective at making a woman feel crazy, referencing the previous phrase. When she brings up a promise he made or a hurtful thing he said, and he simply wipes the slate clean with a "never happened," she is left holding a bag of emotions with nowhere to put them. It is a way of escaping the consequences of his behavior by pretending the behavior never existed. The fear is that the woman will eventually stop trusting her own memory, becoming entirely dependent on his version of the truth. Expanding into the territory of emotional labor, the phrase, "tell me what to do and I'll do it," is often feared by women who are carrying the mental load of the household. While it sounds helpful, it actually positions the man as a subordinate or a child who needs a supervisor. It places the entire burden of planning, organizing, and delegating onto the woman. She doesn't just need a helper, she needs a partner who notices when the fridge is empty or the kids need new shoes. Hearing this phrase tells a woman that her partner is not mentally in the home. He is just a guest waiting for instructions. The fear associated with this is the fear of lifelong exhaustion. It's the realization that if she wants a functional life, she will have to be the CEO of the relationship forever. It leads to a deep sense of resentment, as she feels she has gained a dependent rather than a peer. It signals a lack of initiative that will eventually bleed into every area of their shared life, from finances to parenting to emotional support. Finally, the phrase, "you knew I was like this when you met me," is the ultimate shield against change. It is a refusal to grow. It suggests that because he showed his flaws early on, he is now exempt from ever having to work on them. It is a take it or leave it ultimatum that leaves no room for the natural evolution that a long-term relationship requires. A woman fears this because it means she is stuck with the prototype version of the man, even as she herself grows and changes. It is an admission that he values his habits and his comfort more than he values her needs or the health of the connection. These phrases are not just mean things people say, they are indicators of the emotional climate of a relationship. A relationship where these phrases are common is a relationship where the ground is salted. Nothing healthy can grow there. The fear women feel when they hear these words is a high-functioning survival instinct. It is the soul's way of saying, this person is not a safe harbor. It is an invitation to look closer at the foundation of the partnership and ask if it is built on respect or on control. Understanding the weight of these words is the first step toward building relationships based on genuine respect and mutual accountability. It requires a man to look at his language not just as a way to get what he wants, but as a reflection of the man he is. It requires a woman to trust her intuition when she hears these words, and to recognize that her fear is not an overreaction, but a vital piece of information about her future. When we move away from these toxic linguistic patterns, we open the door to a type of communication that builds up rather than tears down, allowing for a love that is defined by clarity rather than confusion. The path toward a healthier dynamic involves replacing these destructive phrases with I statements and active listening. Instead of, "I'm sorry you feel that way," a mature partner might say, "I see that my actions hurt you, and I want to understand why so I can do better." Instead of, "You're being crazy," he might say, I'm feeling overwhelmed by this conversation. Can we take a break and come back to it with cooler heads? These shifts in language are small, but they represent a tectonic shift in the health of a relationship. When both partners commit to using language as a bridge rather than a weapon, the fear evaporates, replaced by the safety and security that true intimacy requires. Ultimately, every woman fears these words because she knows they are the small leaks that eventually sink the ship. By paying attention to the language of our partners and our own, we can ensure that we are building connections that are strong enough to withstand the storms of life. A man who understands the power of his words is a man who can be trusted with a woman's heart. And a woman who knows her worth will never settle for a man who uses his words to keep her small. The dialogue of a relationship is a living thing, and the words we choose are the nutrients we feed it. Choosing words of affirmation, accountability, and empathy ensures that the connection grows strong and resilient, capable of weathering any storm. It is through this intentionality that we move past the phrases that cause fear and into a space of enduring trust and genuine, lasting love. Consider the phrase, "I'm only being honest." This is often used as a license to be cruel. When a man uses honesty as a justification for an insult or a dismissive comment, he is hiding behind a virtue to commit a vice. True honesty in a relationship is tempered with kindness and the desire to build up, not tear down. A woman fears this because it signals that he values his right to be blunt over her right to be respected. It creates an environment where she is constantly braced for impact, never knowing when the next honest blow will come. Then there is the phrase, "You're too sensitive." This is a direct cousin to "you're being crazy." It is a way of pathologizing a normal emotional response. If he says something mean and she gets upset, the problem isn't his meanness, it's her sensitivity. This is a classic move to avoid accountability. It makes the woman feel like she is flawed for having feelings. Over time, she may try to suppress her emotions to avoid the label, leading to a state of emotional numbness. The fear here is the loss of one's emotional range and the pressure to become a cool girl who isn't bothered by anything, even when she is being mistreated. We also see the fear in the phrase, "Why can't you be more like someone else?" This could be a friend's wife, a celebrity, or even a sister. This is the ultimate rejection of her unique self. It tells the woman that she is failing at a standard she didn't know she was supposed to meet. It breeds deep insecurity and resentment. A woman fears this because it suggests that her partner is constantly scanning the horizon for a better version of her, rather than appreciating the woman who is actually by his side. Finally, think about the phrase, "I'll change, I promise." When said for the 10th time without any corresponding action, this phrase becomes a source of deep anxiety. It is a hope trap. It keeps the woman in the relationship because she is waiting for a version of the man that doesn't actually exist yet. The fear is that she will waste her best years waiting for a promise that was never meant to be kept. It is the fear of being strung along by a man who uses words to buy time, but never uses his actions to build a future. In conclusion, the phrases "women fear from men" are those that undermine their reality, their worth, and their safety. By recognizing these patterns, we can move toward a more conscious and respectful way of loving. Communication isn't just about exchanging information. It's about the emotional wake we leave behind. A man who speaks with intention and empathy creates a world where fear has no place to hide.